Hey, Nagios community. Welcome back to Nagios in the Node. It's like the holidays here in the U.S., or it's getting pretty close. And so rather than actually work, we're hanging out. I've got Michael, sales tech extraordinaire, and Nason.
Hello, hello.
Marketing all things here at Nagios. Michael, how are you going to monitor Santa?
How would I monitor Santa?
How would you?
Track where he's at. I would say the tracker in Rudolph's nose.
Tracker in Rudolph's nose.
Yeah.
All right.
Did you guys know about that?
I did not know about Rudolph's tracker.
Rudolph works for the NSA,
Nice.
and the nose is a tracking device.
That's secure.
I suspected all this time. So, like, how do we know? What is it? Is that like GPS? Is it satellite? What are you doing? How are we getting the data? Is there an Nagios plugin?
You don't want to plug things into your nose.
Fair enough.
I think a lot of different ways. You would probably want to send passive checks back to an XI system.
Fair. Because how do you know how to reach him?
Right.
Right? He could be anywhere.
The passive checks would allow you to do sub 1 minute intervals.
Right.
So that would get you the most accurate location data.
Right.
Right.
Do you think Santa's got like capacity planning or something? Like, is it all magic, or does he have to manage the weight of the sleigh?
If you assumed a certain number of presents per child or a certain weight of presents per child.
I want to know how many presents your children get. Base it off of that.
Oh,
Is the sleigh empty?
yes.
Nice.
But if we assume a certain number of pounds per child, one of the things you could do is continuously measure the weight of Santa's present bag.
Okay.
Present bag? Is that a thing?
Is it? Isn't it?
I guess so.
Right?
We'll go with it.
Hey guys, interesting proposition today for the discussion. You know, we got a recent RFI from North Pole Industries. It being the season, we got a problem that we need to solve with Nagios. We got a customer. He has roughly 2 billion clients to hit, 20 hours to do it. He's got a manufacturing plant that needs to be all prepped, loaded, shipped at distribution centers prior to him taking off. And as I mentioned earlier, 20 hours to get this all done. He's got one shot to do this, 20 hours to do it, 2 billion clients to service. What are we doing? How are we helping him?
All right. Well, first, I got to know, Nason, you ever milk a reindeer?
Not successfully.
Not successfully.
Good game, everyone.
So here's what I think we need. I think we need monitoring in the facility, right? In the manufacturing facility. We need monitoring on the sleigh itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like if we're going to imagine, say, a network of distribution centers, we're going to need some monitoring there. We're going to need to know that they're able to communicate with each other through the entire process. And then we're going to want to monitor completion and know that we haven't skipped anybody. So what I love about the Santa thing is that it represents two really important segments of industry out there. One is manufacturing. The other is logistics. They both have very important SLAs.
Sleighs?
Sleighs, perhaps. They have. So, now, you can track SLAs. You can track anything in Nagios. What are we thinking that we can put together to help them decide how they're meeting their SLA, right? I mean, because I feel like Santa probably has the toughest SLA ever, right? I mean, 5 nines in terms of uptime, that's a pretty high bar, but like, do you leave somebody out? I mean, your kids, yeah. I mean, but the rest of the world.
Yeah. No, we want to make sure that all no, I was going to say we want to make sure that all the kids get hit, but we're not a fan of that. That's bad. Don't hit your kids. We want to make sure that all of the kids get presents. That's what we're looking for.
Absolutely.
So I think obviously monitoring the PLCs would be the starting point. That could give you information regarding the speed of production, how many of a given type of toy are being created at any given rate, like per minute, per hour, whatever your metric is. From there, you use capacity planning to check to make sure that you're on track for a timely Christmas departure, I guess.
Oh, yes. All right.
Because obviously you want to monitor this prior to Christmas.
So, and what might we offer for like dashboarding on that? I feel like we need like a GIF type histogram or some sort of dashboarding that is going to let Santa or Mrs. Claus, because I hear she is a taskmaster or perhaps a taskmistress.
Okay. A little weird, but okay. As far as the dashboards go, I'm not going to touch Mrs. Claus. As far as the dashboards go, you can absolutely add the actual graph of capacity planning to a given dashboard.
Right.
And you might have, let's say, depending on how many production lines you have, you might have a dashboard that encompasses all of the production lines. Or you might have, if you have multiple facilities, you might have a dashboard per facility with each production line in it.
Well, I think there's even more complexity to it there because you've got the parent network that we also have to interface with at least a little bit so we can have those checks for naughty or nice. So we know who's actually getting these presents delivered and who's getting that cold delivery as well.
Right. I feel like that's the list. I feel like that's a job for log server.
Yeah.
Right? And then I think we can build a custom button in log server that says naughty and nice. And we just dump all of the letters to log server, and then we sort by naughty and nice. We get these nice reports. We're good to go. So good call, not forgetting that.
And then there's the actual distribution of those toys. How fast is Santa getting around the world? Is it fast enough? Is he getting hung up on something? What's happening here?
Like, what kind of monitoring do we have coming out of the onboard system on the sleigh itself? Do we have NCPA on there? Are we running Nagios Network Analyzer and doing some trace route to figure out if we can ping the sleigh or not, and if we got network problems in between? What are we doing there?
Real interesting thing. The sleigh's onboard computer does run NCPA.
All right.
And the actual skis for the sleigh are wireless antennas.
Oh.
So they're finding and connecting to open Wi-Fi hotspots all over the world. And NCPA is basically sending back passive checks about things like the weight of the bag of presents and things like that. How many presents have been delivered based on that, based on the weight of that bag.
Right. And I wonder, given that we have a distribution center model for Santa's sleigh, and the weight of that, obviously you deliver some presents, the weight of the sleigh goes down, the contents of the bag goes down. Do you think that they monitored several years, they could monitor several years and then check how they're distributing their distribution centers, right? Like maybe it moves from, the South of France to the north of Italy, or any number of things.
Sorry, thinking about different places where he can reload the sleigh during the night.
How do you know, where you would optimally place your distribution center, right? In terms of, we're going to monitor, we're going to watch the weight of the sleigh go down, and then we're going to know that we're going to need to reload, but you're not going to want to have to go too far in order to be able to do that. You're going to want we want some just-in-time delivery.
Yep.
On the present restock.
Okay. The first thing that strikes me is, NCPA sending back those passive service checks.
Sure.
You're going to get the longitude and latitude coordinates of the sleigh, right?
I like it.
Globally, he's got to reload his sleigh. So depending on where he goes, he can go to different distribution centers, and those distribution centers can run instances that are kind of solid into making sure that they're hitting what they need to hit. But North Pole Enterprises can look at that as a whole solution and figure that out. Do you have any tips as to like the best way to kind of configure that so North Pole Enterprises gets all that they need, but also making sure that that sleigh reload is as timely as possible, just to make sure we're on schedule the way it should be?
Yeah, absolutely. So for a setup like that, you would have facilities around the world, let's say. You've got an XI instance at each of those facilities, and they're all doing their service checks for their local facility, and they're sending that data back up to a centralized XI system controlled by the man himself.
Do you think Santa uses Fusion? Because like I feel like he does.
You think so?
Yeah, he strikes me as a Fusion guy.
Okay, that's fair.
All right.
You could do that.
Yeah.
So you could use a centralized XI system to receive all of those metrics from around the world and do capacity planning at the centralized XI system. Or hear me out.
All right.
You could have Fusion sitting on top of all of them.
Okay.
And then rather than sending all of the metrics back to the North Pole, you would instead just send the metrics back regarding capacity planning. Because maybe Santa doesn't need to know the exact checks that are going on. He just needs to know, these are the things I want to see.
Do we ever support, like, I feel like Santa needs to be kept happy, needs to be kept kind of running, and a big check on that is making sure that there's enough kind of cookies and cocoa to go around. Is there anything that we can do to make sure that we can kind of help out, those parents who might need to understand how many cookies and or cocoa to make? I mean, there's definitely going to be a limit to that. Is there also a way for those parents to be ready in the sense that we could pass certain sensors out there to let them know that he's pretty close, so we should start warming that up? So his cocoa's still hot when he gets to the house.
So yeah, a couple of ways that I can think of just immediately. Different contacts, right? You got parents in different regions, and as Santa approaches, you've got the critical threshold. He's crossed that critical threshold. He's going to be here in like 15 minutes, whatever, right? So they get that email or SMS message, or maybe a little light goes off, whatever your notification is, right? They get that notification. They put out the cookies and the hot cocoa.
To even go further than that, how do we make sure that SMS is delivered maybe once and we're not necessarily giving these poor parents notification fatigue?
Right. Notification fatigue is the worst. There's an option in Nagios that says, resend this notification if it's not resolved or acknowledged within a certain period of time, usually set to an hour. But you don't have to set it. You can just set it to 0 and it'll send the first notification, then that's it.
Nice.
Perfect.
So super handy.
I want to ask a question of disembodied voice Ryan.
Yes.
You asked us this question about the RFI to North Pole Industries, and I want to know, what were you thinking would absolutely need to be in there?
Well, I think we're going on a wonderful path, manufacturing being a huge portion of this, and then the distribution. Something that wasn't talked about and noted, and it may help answer some questions, is little known trade secret is Santa is a government contractor and leverages the United States Navy. So his distribution centers are actually aircraft carriers located all across the world. This is why no one sees him refuel his sack. And being that the aircraft carriers are already strategically placed where we can be in action at any point, day or time, I think we just put the monitoring there for the distribution centers. As we know through our client list that we do have relationships with the military, and we are being used across the branches of the military. So we know we work there. We know we can provide monitoring for. It's just simply hooking up the plugins, as Michael said, making sure that the SNMP traps are sending to the right places. And I think we could potentially use those as the hubs to track where he's going, get the information sent back to, and then, of course, make sure that Santa's sleigh is full of presents. I don't know if that answers your question fully, but I think it was a key part missing from this.
Yeah, definitely.
It wasn't in this RFP.
It was not in the RFP, but I like your creative thinking.
There you go.
On how to solve Santa's problems.
Done and dusted.
Perfect. All right. Well, I really don't know how much longer we can drag this situation out. Mike's out of coffee. Mason is like,
I'm out of questions.
you're out of questions. We're out of time. But we're so grateful that you were here to watch us be goofy on camera. Before we say happy monitoring, we just want to let you know we'd love to hear what you'd like to see. We're having a good time. We hope that you're having a good time. Happy holidays. Happy monitoring.